Welcome in. Thanks for coming back. We're the Real Selection Committee. I'm Mike. This is Greg. And we're here bringing some college knowledge to you that we picked that we're going to talk about. Is a team that we follow, and it's one of our favorites here. We're going to go with the Ohio State Buckeyes.
That's right.
They're playing the Ohio State Buckeyes!
The national champions from last year, 2024 national champions.
Yep.
So that's the team we're going to cover today. We're going to go over a lot of things here. The biggest questions are, the the quarterback situation here. Who's going to take over there since Will Howard moved on to the NFL?
Yep.
Big thing here is a coach carousel here. They lost a couple coaches on the offseason. Imagine that. You win a national championship and your two offensive coordinator and your defensive coordinator both leave. One goes to the NFL, one goes to your rival team, Penn State.
Right.
So, this team probably in my mind has the biggest question marks here. Where are they going to be? Sure, I think they're going to compete and they're going to be up there and one of the best teams in college football, but there's a lot of questions out there on this team.
Yes, there is, and they are a tough team to grade because one thing we know about Ohio State is they don't rebuild, they reload.
Yes.
But they lost a lot of talent from last year. There were 14 guys drafted. And I think 3 to 5 more signed as undrafted free agents. So a lot of talent left. But the one thing in studying them, there were a lot of guys that got depth, got experience playing last year, which are now filling in. And, not to jump the gun, but one of the things that I see as a potential problem is depth. Because most of the depth for this team is the kids coming in the recruiting class.
Right.
So that would be, and the question you alluded to right off the rip, quarterback, we got plenty of talent, young talent. These guys haven't played much.
Right.
So are they going to come out firing like it seems like every Ohio State quarterback does? Or will we get a drop back? So we'll just have to wait and see. But, they're going to be around. It's going to be an interesting team.
So, when you're looking at that quarterback position, you got Julian Sayin, who transferred from Alabama, who was a 5-star stud going in to Alabama. He looks like the odds-on favorite there. You got Lincoln Keenholz, is a backup who all spring, they've been talking about how he has been neck and neck with Julian Sayin here. So it's going to be a toss-up. Plus, a kid they got in recruiting,
Tavian
St. Clair coming in, who is athletic as all get up. He's the tallest guy, fast. I mean, this kid could play a role into this year, but they're kind of hoping that he doesn't to kind of groom him.
Right.
But that's one of their big questions, and the coaching questions. That. So let's dive in a little bit and talk about their schedule. Last year's schedule, pretty much. They placed 4th in the Big Ten. Ended up getting into the playoffs, and they had a heck of a run, obviously. Everybody knows they won the national championship. Probably one of the best runs in college football there, the gauntlet that they had to go through to get there. But, they lost to Oregon at that time. Ohio State was 2, they were 3, so they lost that game. And then the last game of the year, the biggest game, which they were a 20-point favorite in that game, and they ended up losing that. And I'm thinking, oh, man.
Well, the bad thing about that game there was it was so frustrating because, I can't say I hate Michigan. I do not like to lose to them at all because of the idiots that are fans of Michigan. And, when we lost that game, it was the first time of listening to everybody want to get rid of Ryan Day that I actually kind of jumped on that bandwagon for a week. And the team and he proved that I was right to stay with him before that. Because that loss, as horrible as it was, galvanized that team and was the catalyst for them winning the national title.
I mean, Ryan Day had proved all his critics that hated on him after that game that he is a good head coach and he had a talented team. So, that.
Well, one thing I've said to you over the years, because, we've watched the Buckeyes here over the last 5 years, I've been saying Everybody complains about Day. The only teams he loses to are the top teams.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't lose to the Purdue's by 5 touchdowns like Urban Meyer did. Not to disgrace Urban Meyer because he was a great coach. And Jim Tressel lost a lot of games he shouldn't have lost with his punt and play field position. Mm-hmm. Ryan Day had his team ready to play all the time. They got blown out very few times. They lost to the best teams. And they beat a lot of good teams to boot.
Right.
So, and last year, thank God for him, they got that national title. They had the one thing he was missing.
Right. Yeah. He crossed that T on everything last season.
Yep.
I mean, he definitely had a great finish to that awful game against Michigan.
Now we just got to get rid of the losing to Michigan.
Yeah. Now we got to get that in the victory side instead of the loss column. Now let's talk about the 2025 schedule.
Yeah.
This is the big game, first game of the season.
Yeah, Texas.
Ohio State. Texas is coming into Ohio State. It's a kickoff, a noon game kickoff here. I mean, this is going to be a tested game here because both quarterbacks going into this game are going to be first-time starters for both teams.
Yeah, and although Arch Manning has seen more time, it's not like he had a lot of time either playing.
Yeah,
so both are untested. This game is going to be a lot of pressure on both these young men.
Yeah.
And the winner of this game is going to have a shoe-in for the playoffs. They're going to probably be a shoe-in for top 2 in the country. We'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, right. So, and then, like, Ohio State's schedule isn't too bad. They should have if they dump that game, I think they can recover from that game because, you know, they're going to be favored in every game except for this Texas game. And I think this game will really set a tone for the quarterback play here, which I think is the biggest question mark for Ohio State other than the defensive line where they lost, you know, their 2 superstars on the defense. So this game right here is going to be the biggest battle test, and it's the first game of the year.
Yeah.
Other than that, you know, the Illinois game is going to be a tough.
That's going to be a
tough battle. You got Penn State still again on the schedule. Tough. Wisconsin's always a thorn in the side. Yeah. They're not super good. They kind of declined a little bit. Yeah. Then you got the end of the year game against that team up north.
Yeah.
That let's just say I think this game is going to be a little in our favor this time. I think they're going to right the ship here.
Yeah, let's hope. you know, and one thing I will say, it doesn't seem like the kids playing at Ohio State care about the Michigan game as much as the Michigan kids do. It's almost like we don't care about this game. We got bigger fish to fry.
Right.
And Michigan, the only game they care about, even when they won the national title, the only thing they talked about was beating Ohio State because they can't get us off of their mind.
Right.
So, you know, hey.
And you bring up a good point there. I think this playoff tournament that expanded into 12 teams kind of changes a little bit of that game there. It knocks a little bit of the luster off of it here where, you know, Ohio State lost that game and still got in. With 2 losses, they got into this tournament and was able to recover from that and move on and, you know, run through the tournament and win it, which I think that's such a great format that it does give teams chances.
Yeah, and that was all set up. Ohio State being able to lose that game and still qualify. If you remember the week before, the SEC had that meltdown with Ole Miss and Alabama absorbing their 3rd losses of the season, which effectively put them out and gave Ohio State the liberty to lose.
Yes, and mulligan. Yeah, they got a mulligan on that.
Luxury of if they goofed up, they could still get in.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, so let's dive into these starters here. Yeah. You know, you went in through and you did your homework here. You gave all these starters, projected starters, a ranking, you know, for them starting on the season.
Right. Now, what I'm going to do in this is I'm going to go through the starters. I'm not going to give the individual grade, but I will give the overall. I know quarterback, as we've stated, it appears Julian Sayin will be the starter there, who is a 5-star recruit from last year that they flipped from Bama. He's going to be the starter. Shouldn't be bad, should be just fine. The running back, as they have it right now, is a guy who was a reserve in 2024, played well when he had to play, But I'm kind of leaning towards, I think the transfer from West Virginia is going to be that guy, but we'll see.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with either of them. They might try the two-headed monster.
Yeah,
like they
I
did
think
last
they're going
year.
to stick with that
And then
formula.
They got another guy, too, that people are high on, but wide receiver X, the best player in the country as far as most of us are concerned.
Right.
Jeremiah Smith, that's
Yes.
another name we're going to put on here because he was a first-team All-American
Yes.
and a first-team Big Ten as a freshman.
Right.
And he had some games where some teams shut him down. He still put up
Big numbers. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
you know, and he was not a crybaby.
Mm-hmm.
He took it in stride. So this young man is a class act, and he's going to continue to get better. Wide receiver Z is a returning starter. It was Big Ten honorable mention in 2024. Wide receiver Y is a rotator from 2024. He was buried in that deep as all get out wide receiver class that probably would have started for a lot of other teams.
Yes.
But, you know, he'll be making his first turn as a starter this year, and I think he'll do just fine. Left tackle, the website I had did not list any information on 2024 on a bio. So if they don't have stats, and offensive linemen don't have stats, you don't get much out of. I do know he was a starter for Rice in 2024.
He was a transfer.
And he's a 4-star transfer. So pretty good. I remember them talking about this guy and the other tackle, which I'll go out of order. He was a starter for Minnesota. Both of them 4-star transfers. And if I remember correctly, the guy from Minnesota was graded as the best tackle in the transfer portal. So pretty good there to replace two really good tackles that we lost. The interior linemen all had starting experience, and they were all the starters in the playoffs. So really solid, even though they weren't full-time starters in 2024. They've had a lot of experience over the years, and a lot of people have talked highly on them. So the offensive line, while it's not stellar, it should be pretty solid. The tight end, well, was the best tight end in the draft, Max Clare from Purdue.
Yes.
Who, on a very terrible Purdue team, he was the one bright spot for him. So he comes to Ohio State, and we're excited to have him and hoping that goes well. The offense rated a 60. So with all that, and that could have been higher had I had bios on the 2024 to give me more information about who was first team in the Big Ten and all that. So that's pretty good offense. We'll see what Julian Sand can do, and I'm looking forward to that. You get to the defense, there's a little bit of uncertainty here, but they still graded fairly well. All the defensive line played in 2024 got time, except for, let's see, the defensive tackle, which was a reserve in 2024. He's going to be making his first turn. None of them are graded as starters, but 3 of the 4 did play quality time and had decent stats for playing behind stud defensive linemen in front of them. The weak side linebacker is a 2-year starter, 13 Big Ten in 2024. Very good. The middle linebacker was a rotator starter, had good stats, so we'll see what goes on there. Left cornerback was a rotator role in 2024. Strong safety was a reserve in 2024 that had a few tackles. Free safety, best player in the country on defense, Caleb Downs, 2-time first-team All-American, first-team Big Ten 2024, first-team SEC 2023. So, I mean, I graded him an 11 because, you know, you're a junior, and you're a junior and you're a 2-time All-American. Can't get any better than that. No. The one cornerback is a 3-year starter, 2 with Ohio State, 1 year with Ole Miss. Big Ten honorable mention 2024, solid player. The nickelback was a rotator in 2024. A lot of uncertainty, but they still graded as a 58. Because a lot of these guys got experience last year, which is very valuable. And like we spoke with Clemson's defense, I think the defense will catch up and will be solid when we get past week 6 and beyond.
Yeah, like the burning question was both lines, interior lines, the up front guys, the offensive line and defensive line. Offensive line, I think they're going to be better than they were last year.
Yeah, well,
they got, like you said, the 2 transfer kids coming in that are going to make immediate impact.
Yeah.
The guards are returning guys that had multiple playing time. I think they're going to be good. The center, he's been in. He's got some playing time in there as well. And let's face it, this team is going to want to throw the ball. They are very pass heavy. This is the only team, I think, in the country that has their whole receiving core is all 5-star athletes.
Oh, yeah.
Led by the best receiver in the league, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So you got Carnell Tate and you got Brandon Ennis are going to be the other starters. Plus, you're going to mix in Phillip Bell has looked great.
Yeah.
Mylan Graham is another 5-star guy that has looked awesome in the spring.
Yep.
And then they got a freshman kid coming in, Quincy Porter, already got his black stripe removed.
Yeah.
He's a 5-star kid who's got big size, and Jeremiah Smith was saying he's going to be the next big stud coming into the league.
Yeah.
So on the offensive side, plus their tight end, you said is the best tight end that they got transferring in. So they're definitely looking pretty good.
And they have a really good reserve tight end.
Yes.
That was still on the team last year. So you not only get that stud from Purdue, you got a really good guy sitting in the backup that's going to see time as well. So then you get into your recruiting class, which you went over some of it. I have them rated. They were the #1 class in the Big Ten, #4 overall. You got 3 5-star recruits, 18 4-star recruits, and 5 3-star recruits. Players everywhere. So, I mean, rather than go through they got somebody at every position that was 4 or 5 stars. So, really strong. The depth they don't have in the reserve players, they have in the recruits. This team is going to be right there.
Yeah. The recruiting class, like you said, is 4 or 5. Their biggest stud that they got, Stavian St. Clair, the quarterback, who was a 5-star kid, who I think is going to turn out. This probably ain't going to be his year, but he's going to be down the road kid that gets in there, athletic as can be. He's really good. You know, their recruiting class is full of studs out there. Plus, their transfer class was really good too as well. Their transfer class was 26, so that's telling you that they got some kids coming in that are going to start. Plus, they just nailed Bo Atkinson from North Carolina, who they already are starting to tag him as a Bosa-like size kid who had a heck of a year down there at North Carolina. He's going to immediate impact for me on the defensive side, which I think a lot of people are down on their defensive line, but they have some stars. Kenyatta Jackson Jr. was a high-star kid. Edric Houston on the interior side was another 5-star kid. These kids just don't have the playing time because they've been behind studs.
They've earned. They have stats. They earned, as I said when I went over it. Even though we lost a lot of talent, a lot of those guys earned valuable depth last year. And now they're starters. So now you got to rebuild your depth, which they will do through the season.
I'm excited.
You're 100% right.
I'm excited about their defense. I think, they got Matt Patricia there, has NFL experience, head coaching and defense coordinator. He's now their defense coordinator, and I think he's going to implement some good defensive packages in there where I think it's going to highlight some of these guys. They were real high on, they moved C.J. Hicks, who was a linebacker, to an edge rusher who's speed galore. I think he's going to benefit from this. Sonny Styles is returning, who had an awesome playoffs. He looked good. Their linebackers are set. I think they got some good depth. The thing to me is their depth is their defensive backs.
Oh, yeah.
They just nailed the #1 defensive back, Devin Sanchez coming in. They nailed him. He's the best defensive back coming in as a recruit. Plus, they got depth there. Davidson Egbenosa's there. He's been there. He's got to get away with the penalties, but he's a strong,
solid player,
defensive back. That's what you need in the backfield. He's got Lorenzo Styles as another defensive back. So this team is loaded in the backfield. Plus, it's all the best player on the defensive side, Caleb Downs is going to be in there, kind of keeping this defense straight here, in line, ready to go. So I'm really high. I don't see this team taking any steps back. I think this team is going to be pretty coming out. Hopefully they start out quick. If they can
avoid the slow start.
Yeah, they can. If they can avoid the slow start, which you're going against Texas, so you might have there some growing pains. Julian's saying I'm pretty high on him. I think this kid is going to do very well and have a successful 25 season here. I think he's got a quick release. This team's going to want to throw the ball. They do have some running backs coming in because they lost the two studs from Quinchon and Travian. So these guys, I think, are going to fill in nicely.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to be a little pass-heavier team, I think, with the studs that we have at the receiver core here,
Yeah, but well, think about it like this. You've got all them wide receivers, and then you've got two really good tight ends.
Yeah.
So good luck covering everybody.
Yeah.
The defense is going to come along. The thing to me, the Texas game looms large, and Illinois is kind of in the middle. Mm-hmm. And we've done Illinois, and Illinois is a very good football team too. So those two games there loom very large. But Ohio State's capable of winning them both. And, and if Ohio State gets by Texas and Illinois, look out. I'll say this: I don't think they're the odds-on favorites to win the national, but they're certainly in that group. It would be shocking to me if they don't at least win one game in the playoffs. But this is a team that's right there.
Yeah. So how do you feel? Where's Ohio State? Are they going to win the Big Ten? Obviously, I think they're going to make it into the playoffs, barring some setbacks.
This year to me, if they take care of business against the team up north, I think they win the Big Ten. I think they're easily a playoff team. But if they lose that game, let's say for the sake of argument, they dump the game to Texas. Okay. The Illinois game we know can go either way. So you could be out of mulligans by the time you're done playing Illinois.
Yeah.
You cannot afford to lose to Michigan this year.
Yeah.
At all costs, you got to win that game. So Ohio State players, get it in your head that you need that game. But I think this team definitely can win the Big Ten. They definitely can get in the playoffs, whether they win the Big Ten or not. They definitely have a chance to win it all. They're going to factor into everything. I just don't think they're the odds-on favorites this year like they was last year.
So like you spoke, they got Texas. That game is a win or a lose. They're still all right.
Yeah.
They got Illinois, and then the game we do forget about that they're probably not going to be favored in is Penn State. Penn State is the team that everybody's kind of talking about in the Big Ten. They were returning a lot of players. They got a great running game and probably like one of the top 5 quarterbacks there.
Yeah.
Well,
with Penn State, they're looked at as the favorite because their quarterback is very experienced, and he played pretty well last year, right? But once the season starts, if Ohio State comes out and beats Texas and runs off a bunch of games, who do you think is going to be the favorite when they play then?
Right. Oh, yeah.
So, I just think, and where was the game in Ohio State or Penn State last year?
It was at Ohio State.
So it'll be at Penn State. So they might get a little bit of a nod there, but Penn State, they have a mental block at beating Ohio State.
Yeah.
And so the Penn State game's going to be tough, but I think we can get by them. They're one of them teams we just have a knack at beating.
So I'm looking at the schedule. I was wrong. They have Penn State at home. So so that's going to help out there, playing them at home. So that to me, if that's the game, that's the pendulum swing there to me in that season. If you lose to Texas, you're not going to be faulted on that game too much because Texas is a good team, but you can't afford to stack up some losses on there to do, to go anywhere in there.
You're saying the schedule's favorable? Well, look at what we just said. You got Texas, you got Illinois, which we both know on paper looks very strong. We know Penn State's going to be good, and in no way in what I say am I trying to say Penn State can't beat Ohio State. Penn State's a quality football team. Those are 3 pretty tough teams.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I think Ohio State can beat all 3 of them, but they could also lose to all 3 of them. We learned that last year, didn't we?
Yeah. No, I'm excited about. I think Ohio State is going to be in that Big Ten championship game. I think they might lose to Texas. I think the Penn State game's going to be a battle, but they'll squeak that game out and win that. I think they'll beat Illinois, and I think they're going to right the ship against Michigan. They're going to win that game, and I think they're going to go into these playoffs there. I think they got a lot to say. I think they have a lot to say into this playoffs.
I think they do too. I'm going to backtrack because until just this moment, I would have said Texas was the game. But to me, Texas has lost a lot of players too. The more we think about it, Illinois and Penn State are the 2 that really are the biggest threat.
Right.
Because those 2 are returning a lot of their players. Mm-hmm. Whereas Texas, much like the Buckeyes, lost a lot of good talent to the NFL. Mm-hmm. So Texas, while we all want to say Ohio State and Texas that game, both those teams lost a lot of talent. The winner of that certainly set up good. Mm-hmm. The loser got some work to do. Yeah. It doesn't hurt them like we said, but you don't want to start that season off with that L.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you got Drew Aller at Penn State, which I think that we've played him before, and he's always had bad games, and I think we can contain him and win that game. Michigan, you don't know who their quarterback is either. Bryce Underwood is the #1 recruit kid coming in. But how's he going to translate into, college football? Is he going to have a good year?
Yeah.
So that's a question mark there. I think that's a game that they could win.
The one thing you could say about Michigan's quarterback room, it's a lot better this year than it was last year.
Yeah.
A lot better. A lot better. So
Definitely.
We'll see what that means. I mean, it doesn't mean they're great, but they're just a lot better shape in that quarterback room up north than they were last year, too. So Michigan's always going to be a thorn in the side because it's just, especially here recently, because then players have that drive to beat Ohio State. But it's not going to be an easy one, but I do think Ohio State will still factor in favorably.
Yeah, I got them. I got them this year. They win the Big Ten and they make it to that Final Four. That's kind of where I have them placed.
That's in line with what could happen without question.
So,
because they are one of the best teams in the country still.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's going to wrap it up here. We had fun talking about the team that we enjoy watching. Hopefully they have a great, successful year.
Yeah.
Maybe pull home another natty, but that's going to wrap it up.
It's going to be real tough, but yeah, I agree with you. Be nice.
Yeah, it'll be nice. So, hey, thanks for tuning in. And like and subscribe. It's real easy to do. Hey, come on, Buckeyes fans. Let's hear from you. Let's see what you have.
Open up your yaps. Let's go.
Let's hear from the Bucs fans.
If you want to learn about football, you watch us. That's what I'll say.
Right. Let's beat that team up north. Let's not even say their name anymore.
Yeah, let's
just go. Yeah. So, hey, that's going to do it. Peace.
Peace.